Kingdom Hearts 3D Dream Drop Distance, the novel, by Tomoko Kanemaki. Sora's Side. Prologue, Destiny Islands. In the mysterious tower, Mickey faced his teacher, the great sorcerer Yen Sid. This spire was where the king had once trained to become a Keyblade master, and one of the first places Sora had visited before his journey to fight against Xemnas. A certain other trio had spent some time here before too. Sora's 2 journeys had ended, and so had another adventure that connected memories of the past to the memories he had now. But Yen Sid's expression was grim. "Yen Sid, I think we're finally close to figuring out where Ven's heart is," said the king.
"Is that so?"
the sorcerer replied.
"Then that leaves only Terra."
"Right, and we've got to save all 3 of them," Mickey declared.
The question is, what does Xehanort intend to do next?
Xehanort? Mickey was surprised. That name was a thing of the past, wasn't it? But his 2 halves are gone. There was Zansum, who commanded the Heartless, and Xemnas, who commanded the Nobodies. Didn't Sora defeat them both? That battle was over, or so he thought, but Yen Sid closed his owlish eyes and rose to his feet, standing beside the window.
Correct. Those 2 met their end. However, therein lies exactly our problem. Their destruction now guarantees the original Xehanort's reconstruction.
Huh? Mickey gulped.
Xehanort's heart, once seized by his heartless half, is now free, and his body, which had become his nobody, has been vanquished. Both halves will now return to the whole. In short, this means Master Xehanort will return.
Master Xehanort, the man who had once sought to cover the world in darkness. And you think that maybe he's gonna try something?
A man like Xehanort will have left many roads open.
Well, it doesn't matter what he cooks up. Me and Sora, we'll be ready. And Riku, too, the king confidently announced. However, the sorcerer turned back to Mickey and shook his head quietly.
Yes, they are indeed strong, but not true Keyblade masters like you. Tell me, would a single one of you suffice if what you faced was not a single one of him?
What? What do you mean? Yen Sid opened his eyes, but he didn't answer the question.
Mickey, please summon Sora hither, Riku as well.
Of course, but why?
To show us the mark of mastery.
A new conflict was about to begin, and the future would finally link to the past. Next to Riku, Sora waited a little uncomfortably for Yen Sid to start explaining what exactly they were doing here. Receiving a summons to the mysterious tower from King Mickey was all fine and dandy, but he hadn't seen Donald, Goofy, and the king in ages. And instead of doing something interesting, they were all standing here at attention. Riku was waiting silently for the sorcerer to speak, too. He seemed nervous, or maybe he just had something on his mind again. Hey! Sora started to say something to him, but Yen Sid chose that moment to speak at last.
As a Keyblade master, Xehanort had a gift like few others.
Sora thought back on the man they knew as Xehanort. That used to be Xemnas' name back when he was human, before he became the boss of Organization 13. Xehanort had tried to cast the world into darkness before too, by assuming the identity of Ansem the Wise. Still, the Xehanort Sora knew didn't have a Keyblade. Was this a different person? If so, then Sora had no idea who Yen Sid was talking about. Sora's questions went unanswered as Yen Sid continued.
But such great minds are often plagued by a single great question. What is the essence of the human heart that weakens us or empowers us? The answer, he believed, would be found in the Keyblade War.
More words he didn't know. The Keyblade War. So all the Keyblade wielders were fighting one another? That was strange, Sora thought as he listened to the sorcerer.
What if the challenges of our past, in fact, were a map to the light and darkness that battles within us all? Xehanort had to know, so he renounced his duties as master and chose the Seeker's life. Since then, in many a guise he has clashed with protectors of the light, Keyblade wielders like yourselves.
So this Master Xehanort guy tried to start some big fight between light and darkness called the Keyblade War. And it was so he could learn about light and darkness in people's hearts? And he did it under different identities, so, Sora was already lost. He stole a glance at Riku, who was listening solemnly to Yen Sid's speech. I bet Riku actually understands all this, huh?
And mark my words, he will trouble us yet again. We must be ready.
Okay, so this Master Xehanort is still up to no good, and they called us in to take him on. Now that I can get my head around.
Which is why you, Sora, and Riku are to be tested on the mark of a true Keyblade Master.
The Mark of Mastery exam. At those words from the sorcerer, Sora finally snapped to attention like everyone else. The word exam made him a little nervous. But it wouldn't be like a math test or anything. Probably. What if they made him study the history of Keyblades, though? The idea didn't exactly thrill him.
No doubt you fancy yourselves masters already, but it takes years of training. Only a true master can teach you the proper way. Both of you are self-taught Keyblade wielders, an impressive feat.
Sora had never considered the proper way to wield a Keyblade before. He could use one just fine, after all, and he'd taken down both Heartless and Nobodies. What more did he need to learn? Now he was getting nervous as he waited for Yen Sid to continue.
However, the time has come for you to let go of preconceived notions, forget what you know about the Keyblade, and begin your training again with a clean slate.
A clean slate? I have to go from hero to zero again after coming all this way? Sora couldn't stop himself. But that's a formality, right? He complained, leaning forward. I've already proved myself. Me and the King and Riku. We can take on anything. Right, Riku? He looked up at his friend beside him, but Riku's expression remained firm.
I don't know. I think that in my heart, darkness still has a hold.
He summoned Soul Eater into his hand.
Walking that path changed me. I'm not sure if I'm ready to wield a Keyblade. Maybe I do need to be tested.
Riku? Sora lowered his gaze. I had no idea that stuff was still bothering him. He really feels that way? Well, if that's the case... Then count me in! Put me through the test! Just watch! Me and Riku will pass with flying colors! At Sora's confident declaration, the barest hint of a smile appeared on Riku's face. The King, Donald, and Goofy all shared a relieved glance, too.
Very well, then,
the sorcerer announced.
Sora and Riku, let your examination begin.
A comforting and familiar sound reached Sora's ears. It was the sound of waves, the sound of the Destiny Islands. Sora and Riku called those islands home, and so had someone else long ago. The two boys were gazing out at the horizon from the shoreline. Their clothes had changed. Instead of what they'd been wearing back with Yen Sid, their garments were now what they'd worn when they first left the islands a year ago. So this was what the sorcerer had meant by forget what you know about the Keyblade and begin your training again with a clean slate. Yen Sid had told them plenty of other things too, but most of that had gone over Sora's head. I guess maybe we need to fight, and if we win, we pass? But how far could a raft take us? Sora asked Riku, his eyes still on the horizon.
Who knows? If we have to, we'll think of something else.
Riku replied as he began walking over to the raft they had made just that day.
If there are any other worlds out there, why did we end up on this one?
That's what Riku had said back then. They'd seen many worlds and made many friends since. Unlike Riku, Sora had never wondered why they ended up here, but it seemed the thought had always been on his friend's mind. Sora followed after Riku and boarded the raft, apparently their only option for getting to other worlds. The waters around the Destiny Islands were generally calm, but the open seas were another story. About an hour out, the skies darkened and the ocean began to get choppy. Riku, a storm's coming! Sora called over to his friend, a bit perturbed. There was a chill on the wind. Thunderclaps rumbled through the air.
I know, the waves are getting steep.
Riku approached the mast.
Furl the sail.
Right! Just as Sora headed over to take care of it, a powerful gust filled the sail and snapped the mast in two. Whoa! While Sora hurriedly ducked down, Riku was knocked through the air and into the sea along with the mast. He would have gone under if he hadn't managed to grab hold of the log. Riku!
I'm fine.
Sora held out his hand to him, but at that moment, the ocean heaved ominously, forming a whirlpool that swallowed the sea itself. Its center was a pitch-black abyss.
What's that?
Riku whispered, and a moment later, a huge purple tentacle shot out toward the surface. Then, with a splash, a great sea monster rose from the water, cackling. No, it wasn't a monster. It was Ursula, the witch who had tried to trick Ariel in Atlantica.
Oh, he was right. Those wretched guppies are here. Well, it's about time we settled the score.
Ursula shouted at the two boys, her tentacles writhing. Ursula, but how? Is this the test? Sora brandished his keyblade.
Come on, Riku called. You can work it out later.
All right, Sora replied. Using Ursula's tentacles as a series of platforms, Riku made his way back to the raft.
Sorry, dearies, but you don't stand a chance.
The witch's tentacles lifted the raft. With a cackle, she called down lightning on Sora and Riku.
It's high time you were punished.
She was gigantic. Her face alone was 5 times as tall as Sora. She spit bubbles at him, but he still knocked them back at her with ease. He may have forgotten the ins and outs of how to use his keyblade, but not how to fight. Plus, he had Riku by his side now. All right, let's do this! Sora and Riku dashed across the raft in unison and delivered a blow to Ursula with everything they had. The witch vanished with a shriek, and a shockwave that tossed the 2 friends into the sea. As Sora and Riku sank into the briny depths and began to lose consciousness, they could barely make out a light in the distance. Is that a keyhole? A beam of light shot from each boy's keyblades and opened the keyhole. A powerful gleam radiated from it, swallowing both of them up. And then there was someone else watching them, a man wearing a brown robe.
This world has been connected.
Sora gazed at the man as if in a trance, but he was already on the brink of unconsciousness. He and Riku slowly drifted off to sleep. Chapter 1, Traverse Town. When Sora came to, he was standing above a street he recognized, surrounded by dusky bricks and several neon signs. A city that felt familiar to anyone who visited. This was Traverse Town. His very first journey had begun here, he remembered. He was pretty sure he had woken up in an alley that time. Now, I guess I'm in a building across from the 3rd District gate? Or out on the veranda? This was the 1st District, and the shop at the top of the steps in that plaza was Sid's. This was where he had met Sid and Yuffie, Leon and Aerith, and then Donald and Goofy too. Sid and the others were in Radiant Garden though, so he didn't expect to see them around. Plus, I'm in the middle of the Mark of Mastery exam, so, Hey, what's with my clothes? Somewhere along the way, Sora's outfit had changed to one he had never seen. When he left the Destiny Islands, he'd been wearing his outfit from when he left home for the first time. So maybe this was more of Master Yen Sid's magic? There was a large X on the front of Sora's shirt, and his jacket had also turned black, but his pants were still red like before. And speaking of things that were different from before, Riku was gone too. Riku? Hello? Riku? Sora called out in a loud voice. He could have sworn they were together at least up until they fell off the raft. Then we sank into the water, and then what?
Shut it. Talk about noise.
Huh? Sora heard a voice come from overhead and leaned forward. He could see someone sitting on the roof, but he had leaned out a bit too far and tumbled right off the balcony and into the plaza. Ouch! When Sora managed to get to his feet, a teenage boy was standing next to him. He was wearing headphones over his spiky orange hair and looking intently at Sora's face.
Sora, right?
Yeah, but how do you know that? Instead of answering the question, the boy grabbed Sora's hand and examined his palm.
Looks like you're not a player.
The comment made no sense. A player? Sora asked. What's a player? I guess he's not talking about the Mark of Mastery exam.
Come on, keep up. In the game.
The boy showed his own palm to the obviously puzzled Sora. There were numbers on it, apparently a timestamp of some sort. It's going down, so a countdown?
Players get marked with a time limit, and this is the game. I can't afford to lose. I need my game partner.
Sora had no idea what this game was or who the players were, but he linked his hands behind his head like he always did and smiled. Okay, I don't know about any game, but how can I help?
What? Time out.
Now it was the boy's turn to reply with a question. But if someone was in trouble, helping them was just what you did. That had been Sora's MO the whole time, and he didn't plan on changing it anytime soon.
Do you trust every total stranger you meet?
Asked the boy, his eyes slightly downcast. Then he continued.
Look, sorry, you're no good. You're not a player. And my pact's with someone else.
Well, there was only one reply to that. Okay, so we can't be partners. Why don't I help you out as your friend?
Now we're friends? It's not that easy.
The boy snapped as he abruptly turned away. Not saying it is, but you could make it easier. Sora pressed with a grin. He had made a lot of friends up till now, and he didn't intend to stop at this point. Even if this world wasn't real, there was no reason they couldn't become friends.
Yeah, sounds great. Whatever.
And with that, the boy ran off, leaving Sora behind. Cool, lead the way. Sora called after him. If he doesn't care, I'll do what I want then. And what he wanted was to make a friend and help him with his game or whatever. After all, he didn't seem like a bad guy. Sora took off after the boy. He had the layout of Traverse Town pretty much memorized. The strength he'd gained over the course of his journeys might have been lost, but that didn't mean his memories had been wiped. He ran up the steps in front of Sid's shop, then circled around back toward the big doors of the 2nd District. It was in the 2nd District that Sora finally caught up. The other boy turned around once he noticed Sora's arrival. Hey, I didn't catch your name, Sora said. The boy paused for a moment, then started to reply, but then a circle of very strange-looking creatures appeared around the two of them. They didn't appear to be heartless or even nobodies. Dream Eaters, the boy cried, bracing for a fight as another weird little creature appeared by him too. This one felt different from the others, something about its eyes. It resembled the ones hemming them in, but unlike them, there was nothing menacing about it. That's a weird name, Sora muttered in reply. Not me. The boy snapped. Them. Right, I knew that. Oh, so these guys are the Dream Eaters, not him. Now that you mention it, I feel like I've heard that name before. But from where? The Dream Eaters edged towards Sora and the boy, closing the distance. These must be the baddies they would be facing this time.
Don't let them surround us. Let's split up,
the boy called. Got it! Sora summoned his Keyblade.
Oh, and it's Neku.
Huh? Sora asked, unsure what he meant.
Neku Sakuraba, you asked.
The youth explained, avoiding Sora's eyes. Neku Sakuraba. That's a mouthful, Sora replied honestly.
No, it's really not,
Neku shot back. Come on, Neku, Sora called. Let's take him. At Sora's signal, Neku charged, and not wanting to be left out, Sora held up his weapon and rushed toward the pack of Dream Eaters. Keyblade whirling and spells flying, Sora took down the creatures. They weren't heartless or nobodies, but they still seemed to be tough customers. Once the last of them had been dealt with, Neku returned with the Dream Eater he had summoned before the battle. This one seemed to be his friend. These things with you, they're Dream Eaters too?
Yeah.
Neku nodded. That must mean some Dream Eaters are friendly, and some will try to attack us.
If I'm going to survive the game, I'm gonna need some extra help. Think you could control them?
Finally, Sora remembered what Yen Sid had said. After he had finished going over the Mark of Mastery exam, the sorcerer had had more to say to Sora and Riku.
If we are ever to strike down Xehanort, we need the individuals King Mickey spoke of in his letter. We must lead them out of sorrow and slumber, back to our world.
Who exactly were these people in sorrow and slumber? Sora didn't know why, but he felt a pang in his chest, a wistful sort of loneliness.
To do so, 7 sleeping keyholes must be found and unlocked, and a great power retrieved. As you know, every world is walled off from the next, preventing travel between them. In the past, you could bridge these gaps because the walls were broken, or because you could open special lanes with your keyblades. But your new goals, the sleeping keyholes, are harder to reach.
7 keyholes. That number makes me think of the princesses of Heart. Alice, Snow White, Aurora, Cinderella, Jasmine, Belle, and then Kairi. Maybe the keyholes and the princesses are connected somehow?
If you recall, in your first journey, that you brought many worlds back from the darkness, but some never returned completely. They still sleep, cut off from all the outside channels. Not even the heartless can enter.
Yen Sid was always long-winded, but unlike the teachers at school, he was lecturing about worlds Sora had never been to before. It was pretty interesting, even to him.
But these sleeping worlds are said to have their own manner of darkness. They are called Dream Eaters, and there are 2 kinds.
Sora wasn't sure what eating dreams entailed exactly, but he guessed Dream Eaters were like the heartless or the nobodies.
Nightmares which devour happy dreams, and benevolent spirits which consume the nightmares.
So there's good ones and bad ones. Sora found his own way of understanding.
The Dream Eaters will guide you, just as the heartless once guided you, to the keyhole you seek at the heart of each world.
And with that, Yen Sid's explanation of Dream Eaters came to an end. So this little guy must be a spirit. The Dream Eater next to Neku was rubbing up against his legs affectionately.
You can make Dream Eaters from dream pieces, and you get those by taking out Dream Eaters.
Gotcha! I'll give it a shot! Sora collected the scattered dream pieces left behind after the battle, then put them together according to a recipe Neku handed him. The light around the pieces swelled as they came together, and something appeared within the brilliant glow. Is this a dog? Sora tilted his head to one side curiously.
Nah, I'd say it's more of a cat.
Neku gave the Dream Eater a close look with his arms crossed too. The Dream Eater, a strange pudgy creature with a single horn on its head, was a spirit that wasn't quite cat or dog. It was called a Meow Wow, and he was apparently already a big fan of Sora. He rolled over in front of him, belly up. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter. Nice to meet ya. Sora rubbed the soft tummy and Meow Wow let out a happy snort. After the two of them had introduced themselves in their own way, Neku eventually looked away from Sora.
Follow me,
he said. Okay, Sora replied, then followed the boy along with Meow Wow. They proceeded through the back streets, dispatching Dream Eaters along the way. Neku didn't say anything. Eventually, they arrived at the 3rd district, and the moment they did, Neku suddenly shouted,
I brought Sora! We had a bargain!
He yelled toward the door to the 1st district. What's the matter, Neku? What was this about a bargain? Did Neku make a deal with someone? Without a moment's notice, the man who Neku had called to appeared. The man was wearing one of those oh-so-familiar black coats, the uniform of choice for Organization 13, Sora's enemies during his 2nd adventure. Sora wasted no time readying his Keyblade. No way! The gleam of magic began to build in the man's raised hand. He then moved as if to bring down his arm.
Hey, that wasn't the deal. You said you wouldn't hurt him.
Neku cried out in a panic. He ran in front of the man, spreading his arms to shield Sora. Don't, Neku, they're too dangerous, Sora shouted, and a moment later, a heavy sensation he couldn't quite place washed over him. He was suddenly very, very drowsy. What? Why am I so sleepy? He crumpled to the ground, fast asleep. When he awoke, Sora was lying in the 3rd district, right where he'd lost consciousness. The stones were cool against his cheek. He rubbed his eyes as he stood up. Neither the man in the black coat nor Neku were there. That didn't happen because I got hit with some attack or spell, Sora thought. I was just too sleepy to stay awake. What's going on here? Yen Sid said we're in the sleeping worlds. Does it have something to do with that? I'm not dreaming though. Probably. Sora was worried about Neku too. He had told the creep in the coat that they had a deal. What did that mean? Well, one thing was for sure. Neku and the guy in the black knew each other. I guess I should just take a look around. Sora decided to stop thinking and start doing. For starters, he would search the area nearby. The door across from the small fountain led back to the 1st district, he remembered. He hadn't caught sight of Neku, not to mention his partner, so he'd just try to find Neku for now. Sora opened the door to the 1st district to start his search there this time around. I wonder if there's anywhere I haven't gone yet. As Sora thought this over, Meow Wow finally left his side and waddled off on his own. Hey, where are you going? Meow Wow led him to a door that Sora had never opened in any of his previous journeys. Hey, I'm not sure it actually opens. But Meow Wow simply pushed the door ajar with his small body. Oh, it does? Standing behind Meow Wow, Sora took a peek through the crack. Beyond it was an alley that he had never set foot in before. It was kind of nice to know that Traverse Town still had places to explore. Sora decided to go on ahead with Meow Wow. He followed the winding lane and passed through what looked like an underground waterway. And beyond it was a great fountain. Hey, Traverse Town has another smaller fountain in the 2nd district too. Dispatching Dream Eaters, Sora reached the next door and stepped through. Wow, never been this way before. This was the 4th district, a brightly lit block of chains of glittering lamps strung across its streets. Farther ahead stood a single building with glaring neon. Several of the item-selling Moogles Sora knew so well were there. He slid down the trails of a stairway leading to the bright structure, only to spy a boy, no, a girl, standing beside the Moogles. Dressed in a hat and slightly baggy clothes, the girl looked to be younger than him. Her outfit reminded Sora of Neku's. Maybe this was who Neku was looking for. Hey, Sora called to her. Any chance you're Neku's partner? I'm not really sure. All I know is that my name is Rhyme, said the girl. You mean you've lost your memory? Yep. Oh, sorry. Sora had lost his memory before too, so he could kind of relate. It was sad to have those precious memories and feelings vanish, and yet Rhyme flashed a happy smile. Aw, it's no big deal. You know what they always say, sometimes memories just need a little help getting out. Yeah, that's true. Sora returned Rhyme's smile. Yeah. Still, it had to be tough not being able to remember anything. How could they restore Rhyme's memory? A little help. I know. Maybe Neku can jog your memory. Come on, Rhyme, let's go find him. Right. That said, Sora had already scoured every last inch of the way here. The only place he hadn't checked was whatever lay beyond the 4th district. He took a look around and spotted a large door next to the Moogles selling items. He and Rhyme opened it together to find the 5th district. There was a bridge over some babbling water. The two of them crossed the bridge and found another big building with a sign that said Flowers and Plants. Probably a botanical garden or something. The door was shut at the moment though, so they couldn't get inside. Neku was on top of the glass roof. Hey, Neku, it's you! Sora ran up to him, calling out. He'd been worried ever since he woke up in the 3rd district that Neku might still be in trouble, especially when he couldn't find him or the man in the black coat. Something seemed off though.
Sora,
Neku said without turning around.
What, you actually still trust me?
Of course I do. Sora's intuition said Neku wasn't a bad guy, and he was confident it was right.
But you know that I tricked you, right? That guy in the black coat, he said that he could send me home, me and my partner. But I had to bring you to him first.
Neku fell silent for a moment. Sora waited for him to continue.
Sorry.
See? He wasn't bad at all. No big deal. When it really mattered, you stood up for me. And besides, we're friends, right?
Friends.
Neku turned back and finally showed a hint of a smile. Sora tried asking him about Rhyme, the girl standing next to him. Oh, hey Neku, this here is Rhyme. Is she your game partner?
No,
Neku replied.
Sorry, I'm teamed up with somebody else.
Just then, Rhyme was swallowed into a burst of orange light. What? Rhyme!
Huh?
And then, as if to take her place, the man in the black coat appeared before the startled duo. Sora immediately readied his Keyblade, but Neku was the first to launch himself at the mysterious figure. However, the black wind swirled around the man and blasted Neku away. Neku! Sora called out in shock as the man raised his hands overhead. An inky glow swirled together to form a bizarre-looking creature, something best described as a box with the head and limbs of a monkey. Sora had never seen a Dream Eater this big before. The enormous Hako monkey roared, shaking the air itself. As for the man, he simply melted away into the corridors of darkness that opened behind him. Huh? Hey, wait! Sora tried to go after him, but the Dream Eater barred his path. Out of my way! Keyblade in hand, Sora faced the Hako monkey alongside Meow Wow, and the battle began. Hako monkey's hands, which appeared to be in boxing gloves, detached from its body and began to fly around and launched attacks on their own. This was a real headache. Sora avoided them, drew a bead on Hako monkey's body, and attempted an overhead strike, only to be batted right off the edge of the building. Meow Wow followed and looked up at Sora worriedly. What? That was nothing. Meow. The creature turned its back to Sora and wagged its round tail, almost like it was telling Sora to hop aboard. You sure? Meow. As soon as Sora was astride, Meow Wow started bouncing around like a ball. Wow! Boinging high into the air, the chubby Meow Wow came crashing down on Hako monkey and flattened it. Wow! The Dream Eater howled and fell still. Hey, not bad! Now let's do this! Now that Hako monkey was down for the count, Sora leaped off Meow Wow's back and delivered the finishing blow. The Dream Eater's body was enveloped in a blinding light and rose into the sky, where it burst into shards of light. One of those shards drifted down and projected the forms of two people, Riku and a girl Sora didn't recognize. The image was hazy enough that he could instantly tell that they weren't actually there. Riku! Sora was about to run toward the projection of his best friend when someone called out to stop him. Hold on, Sora. Sora turned to see a boy he didn't know. He had wavy shoulder-length ash-gray hair and was wearing a pale violet shirt that was open at the chest. He seemed amused by something. Behind him, a small indistinct orb displayed a city that resembled Traverse Town. Wait, if I'm in Traverse Town right now, then what's that place in the sphere? Sora was getting confused. The girl dashed out from the image and ran right past him. With Riku close behind her, it seemed they couldn't see him. Though they were all in Traverse Town, Riku and the girl must have been in some other area.
Joshua,
Neku said to the boy who had stopped Sora.
"Hello, Neku. How long the days without you have felt,"
replied Joshua. The orb behind Joshua flashed, and when the light faded, Rhyme was standing beside him. "Rhyme, I'm glad you're okay," Sora said. The girl simply smiled back at him. Actually, thinking about it now that things had settled down for the time being, this Joshua guy was starting to look really fishy. They'd never even met, but somehow Joshua knew his name. Sora had trusted his own intuition when it said Neku wasn't a bad person, and he also generally listened to his gut when it said someone could be bad news. Just because he was suspicious, it didn't mean he was bad, but Sora wasn't ready to trust Joshua yet. "Neku, do you know this guy?"
"Yeah, Joshua. He's my friend,"
Neku said as he stepped toward Sora and the others. "Okay," Sora said, folding his arms. If Neku said Joshua was cool, then maybe he wasn't all bad. Still, something felt off about him. "Are you the one who took Rhyme away? And why do you know my name?"
"If you'd like to settle down for a sec, I'll field your questions one at a time,"
Joshua replied with a smile, brushing his hair back with a hand.
"Let's start with Rhyme. I'm hanging on to her dreams for her. They're my portal," he explained.
Sora was confused. What does he mean by portal?
"Let's just say her dreams are a gateway between worlds."
Now that was something Sora understood. He had opened plenty of gateways in the past and had gone through to worlds beyond them. So a portal must be something similar. While he was lost in thought, Neku walked up beside him.
"Next question. How could I possibly know your name, right? This town has a little secret. It only appears when someone out there has need of shelter."
Sora knew that. Traverse Town was a special place where people came to live after their worlds were lost to darkness. That's why Leon and the gang used to be here.
"I'll spare you the details, but right now it's made up of my dreams. So of course, I know you. I dreamed you up."
And now Joshua had lost him. His dreams? Does he mean this world comes from his mind? So is this Traverse Town not the same one as before?
"I know your best friend, Riku, too."
"Really? You know Riku?" Sora asked. That wasn't a name he was expecting to hear. Joshua grinned at his reaction.
"Well, yeah," he said. "I'm kind of omniscient."
"Then where is he?" Sora couldn't help but take a step forward. Joshua turned back to the floating image of Riku. It looked like Riku was squaring off against someone.
"He's right inside this projection, in another imagining of this world."
Sora considered what Joshua was telling him. So Riku's world, the one in the image, was a different version of this one? Joshua's clarification didn't really clear anything up. "You mean another Traverse Town? Can I get there with your portal thing?" Sora asked Joshua. He wanted to get back to Riku right away.
"Sad to say, it won't work for you. My portal thing only opens for the one with Rhyme's dreams."
He looked toward Riku again.
"In this projection, you're seeing another chain of events. In another world trapped by the Dream Eaters. As for how the world got split in two, I have a feeling you'll need to ask this guy."
Riku's opponent stepped into view. "Him again," Sora murmured. It was the man in the black coat. In the same instant, two more figures appeared behind Sora: Neku, Rhyme, and Joshua. There was a boy wearing a hat with the skull patch on it, and a girl in a pink cap. The boy was desperately shouting something at Riku. The man in the black coat slowly removed his hood. He was young, with silver hair. "Who's that?" Sora whispered reflexively. He was sure he'd never seen this guy before, and he wasn't a member of Organization 13. He felt familiar somehow, though. Within the image, the man vanished with a flash of light. The boy in the skull hat disappeared next. "Beat," Rhyme said. Next, the girl in the pink hat faded from view, and Neku said her name too. "Shiki." Sora and Riku faced each other across the boundary between worlds, but Sora's counterpart didn't vanish. "Riku." The light swallowed Neku and Rhyme next, as if to take them instead. As Sora and Riku stood together across two different worlds, Joshua softly began to speak.
"In their world, something happened that brought their existence to an end. To keep them from fading altogether, I gathered up every last remnants of their dreams and looked for a place to give them refuge."
Joshua turned away from Sora and Riku and walked a short distance away, then stopped and shoved his hands into his pockets. Sora didn't know anything about the world Neku and his friends came from, but what did it mean to have their existence brought to an end? Whatever it was, it sounded awful. It was then this world appeared to answer my call, and Rhyme's dreams allowed us to reach it. Here I thought they might have a chance, that the pieces of their dreams could make them whole again. Joshua turned back to face Sora and Riku. Imagine my surprise when I realized dreams take bodily form in this world. It struck me. By linking their dream pieces back together, maybe I could make them exist again. Maybe I could give them another chance. Next to Sora, Riku seemed to ask Joshua something. Sora's voice couldn't reach Riku, and Sora couldn't hear his, but apparently Joshua could hear them both. Well, why can't it? By ourselves, we're no one. It's when other people look at us and see someone. That's the moment we each start to exist. All they needed was for someone to see them, to connect them, and the two of you were a big part of making it happen. If Sora had learned anything on his journey so far, it was that strength of heart came from the bonds between people, from how much friends cared for one another, and those feelings made each other stronger too. Power came from your friends, for him, for everyone. Joshua, just who are you? Sora asked. This was what had felt strange about Joshua when they first met. What made him so special? Why could he jump back and forth between his world and Riku's? Joshua smiled at the question. Let's say a friend, he said, and white angelic wings appeared behind him. Whoa! As Sora yelped in surprise, Joshua flapped his wings and flew off into the heavens. Back down on the ground, a keyhole floated up before Sora and Riku. Sora looked at Riku, who was there with him, just in a different world. Riku was looking back. Even if they couldn't touch or talk to each other, Riku was here at Sora's side. That was proof enough that these worlds were connected. Sora remembered something Yen Sid had said.
One dream is connected to another, which means we must choose in which sleeping world you will begin. I will return you to the Destiny Islands just before they were swallowed by the darkness and plunged into sleep. Once dreams take you, you must let them guide you to the sleeping worlds. As there are 7 pure lights, there are 7 sleeping keyholes. Unlocking these will both grant you new powers and free the worlds from their wakelessness. Complete the task and return here safely, and I will name you both true masters.
So these keyholes would free the worlds from being trapped in slumber, and once Sora and Riku had unlocked all 7, they would become Keyblade Masters. With a nod at each other across the divide between their realms, the two friends held up their keyblades to the keyhole. Light shot from their weapons into the opening, and the keyhole of the second world yawned wide. Sora took one more look at Riku beside him, and Riku did the same. With another nod, Riku vanished. All right, let's keep at it. With that, Sora departed for the third world.